Okay, so you know how sometimes you'll think of a good joke and it's just not the right time to say it? So then you have to hold it in until you're in a more appropriate place and it just feels like it's weighing you down the whole time? Okay, so that's bad. But even worse is when you come up with a joke where there would never be a right time to say it, because that just has to weigh you down forever. Let me give you an example. I'm going through my inbox and astute listener Corey has sent me a story about Jill Duggar not masturbating. Seriously. She did a whole interview where she bragged about how she never masturbates. And the first thing that occurred to me was, wow, she's way better at keeping her hands off of her vag than her brother is, tee-hee. But that's such a horrible joke that I can never, ever say it out loud. But yeah, it's all just more of that paradoxical weirdness that Christians wrap sex in. It's got to be horrible and sinful and shameful, but they also need more Christians. So you end up with these bizarre contradictions like Jill Duggar urging women to suppress their sexuality in one breath and then reminding them to always be available to their husbands for sex with the next. And nowhere is this intellectual incompatibility more obvious than when they start talking about young women. On the one hand, any visible skin is a goddamn sin for which girls should burn in an eternal lake of fire for. Take as your example, Father Kevin M. Cusick, a former Navy chaplain who took to Twitter the other day to complain about the brazen display of nude shoulders he witnessed at a recent Catholic Mass. His tweet read, quote, "Ladies," so already we know this is going to be bad, he continues, "a priest I know was forced on Sunday to ask a woman at Mass to cover her shoulders. Please help the priest to protect the purity of the men at Holy Mass by choosing to dress modestly. The alternative is awkward for all involved." End quote. And he's right. If there's one thing I know about women, it's that they generally spend too little time reflecting on how their clothing choices will be interpreted by men. It's a good thing we have Father Mansplain to sort it out for us here. I'll just take a solace in the fact that the awkward for all involved line was almost certainly a reference to his uncomfortable pew boner. So on the one hand, we can't expect women to be entrusted with autonomous dominion over their own shoulders, but when men need them to be mature enough to fuck, suddenly the standards shift wildly. So yeah, I've got a story about child brides, so we'll move on over to Pakistan for this story. Not because the story takes place in Pakistan, but because Pakistan is really fucking far from Louisiana, where this story actually takes place. So, quick quiz for you. What's the minimum age you can get married in Louisiana? If your answer was a number, you're wrong, because there isn't one. You can get married to a person of any age. And based on their abortion laws, personhood extends to fetuses too. So like -9 months is probably a legitimate option there. Well, State Senator Yvonne Colum set out to change that by introducing SB 172, which would have set the new minimum at 18 years old. And it failed. The law saying you couldn't marry children failed 22-15. And what excuse could one possibly offer up for opposing a bill against marrying 15-year-olds? Well, they're as bad as you think. Stuff like Nancy Landry, who said, quote, "A lot of 16-year-olds are very mature," end quote. Or even worse, the comments of Representative Valerie Hodges, who said, quote, "A lot of 16-year-olds get pregnant. Do you feel it's better for them to not get married at all and for the child to be born illegitimately?" So, yeah. Now that Val has exhaustively listed all the legal options for what a pregnant 16-year-old in Louisiana can do, I'll hand things back over to Noah, Heath, and Eli.